All right. Hey, everyone. This is Tim Serantonio at Neon One. We are, okay, I'm going to get I'm hearing myself, so I'm going to close that. I heard the YouTube of myself, which is horrifying. So this is Tim Serantonio, Neon One. I am very excited for our kind of Neon One night in, late night edition of the Generosity Exchange, which is our Change Makers Conference that we got hundreds upon hundreds of organizations joining us today, representing just all different types of social good organizations. And after a day of learning and listening and reflecting, we still want to do that, but we want to do that in a little bit more of a relaxed environment. And so I'm so grateful for our sponsors, the Giving Block, for kind of doing a 1-2 punch of social opportunities here tonight. So we had a little bit of trivia earlier. If you were able to join us for that, that would be, that was great. And then tonight we're having crypto and comedy, actually. So Pat Duffy, I don't know if you want to say a little bit about the Giving Block before we kind of dive in and introduce our very special guest, actually, because I think if we took the vast majority of our clients who are very well-known nonprofits, they still wouldn't meet the number of Twitter followers that our special guest has. So I'm excited to introduce who that is. But Pat, tell us a little bit about you folks before we dive in.
Yeah, I mean, just quickly, what we do is we set up nonprofits to take crypto donations. So there's been a huge imbalance between the number of people using crypto and who transact in this way versus nonprofits willing to accept this form of money. They don't know how many people use it. We often compare it to kind of people in the US not thinking soccer is a thing. And the world's been, growing the ecosystem more than doubles pretty much every year and a half. And Pomp is, an indicator of that. We've been following him for years. And I guess tonight, the main reason to bring him on is Pomp often kind of talks about the nature of cryptocurrency, what it's going to disrupt, why it's happening, why it's popular. And then the spin tonight is kind of like, okay, all of that's going to happen. Why is that good? So excited to have Pomp on, and thanks for including us as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So Pomp, tell us about you. First of all, is that your given birth name, or
no, it is not. My mother was kind enough to give me a real name, Anthony John Pompliano, of all names, about as Italian as you can get. But
well, I am Tim Serantonio, so I get that Irish and Italian kind of mix there. But yeah,
absolutely. I spent 6.5 years in the Army. Ended up building and selling 2 small technology companies. Ran a number of product and growth teams at Facebook and Snapchat. And for the last 4 or 5 years have been investing in early stage technology companies. I think we've invested over $100 million over the last 4 years. And I would say that the majority of them over really the last 2-3 years have been in the blockchain, crypto, Bitcoin world. And so we're super excited about the stuff that's happening there.
Pat, you see? Oh, I think we got a little bit of a hiccup there.
Absolutely.
How we doing?
You got me?
Yes, got you back. So hey, it's the cloud, right? So well, now to my understanding, okay, so let's actually, because our audience isn't cryptocurrency folks, right? Our audience is nonprofits, people who are interested in change and social good. So if you're going to give like a 30-second, like 101 on what the hell is Bitcoin, and I'm going to use the word hell because it shows that we can curse on this, by the way. So, and I'm going to stop recording my end. I think the YouTube Live is going to do that anyway. So just in case. So give us a quick overview of cryptocurrency basics 101, because then that'll kind of help open up like why this is something people need to pay attention to. Now, FYI, Pat's already got me hooked. All right. Like, this is why I'm pretty jazzed about this, but give us a little bit of a basics there.
Yeah, I think that the three key things to understand are similar to how every business in the world pretty much was in the analog world before the internet was invented. And then when the internet came along, all those businesses became internet enabled. And some of them were brand new businesses built specifically for the internet. And some of them were old businesses and business models that got kind of digitized over time. That's essentially what's happening with money right now. And so every currency in the world is going to be digitized, whether that is the US government creating a digital dollar, a digital euro, a digital yen, whatever. And those are kind of the incumbents just being digitized. But on the same hand, there's also a number of new challengers or kind of upstarts. And one of those is Bitcoin. Bitcoin basically takes everything that a fiat currency does and flips it on its head. So a fiat currency has unlimited supply. It's inflationary in nature. It's controlled by a small group of people, and it's not digital, right? And so Bitcoin basically says, well, let's do everything the exact opposite. So let's be completely
I'm assuming saying decentralized. Yeah, you cut out a tiny bit there.
So yeah, so basically it says, look, let's be owned by nobody, be fully decentralized. The monetary policy is not decided by any group of people. It's pre-programmed, and everything is digital. So there's no kind of fiat currency. There's nothing physical in nature. And I think that what you're seeing is in the United States, frankly, there's a lot of people who say, hey, the dollar works great for me. Right. Yep. And for most people, that ends up being a pretty positive thing. But in other parts of the world, there's either failure of currencies. So literally the monetary policy ends up leading to the failure of the currency, or you get just technology issues. So you can't access a currency. You have a hard time actually getting money withdrawn from a bank because of capital controls, things like that. And so I think very similar to how businesses that kind of fought or refrained from embracing the internet, we're going to see the same thing. The currencies that kind of fight this digitization or refrain from it will end up actually being at a disadvantage in the future. And then I think what you're seeing is businesses and organizations, they really like three things about cryptocurrencies. One is it's incredibly cheap in terms of transaction fees. Two is there's nothing around chargebacks or anything like that. So everything is a finite settlement. And the third thing is you can accept payment from anyone in the world. And so you don't need to necessarily have somebody with a US bank account to send you money or something like that. You basically drastically increase your total addressable market on day one just by accepting a digital currency versus a fiat currency. And so we think that, just again, like every business ended up on the internet, we think that every business will end up accepting cryptocurrency. And we think that everyone will use cryptocurrencies in the future because ultimately it's just a better form of money from a technology and user experience standpoint.
So this is where, because I'm bought in almost to the point where, other than the fact that it's my wife's birthday tonight, and I'm doing
her happy birthday.
Happy birthday. They say Pomp says happy birthday. And if at Lalantonio, if you want to tweet happy birthday to your Twitter followers. But okay, so here's the thing. I'm bought in. I was like even asking Pat, like, how can I, like, if I want to even like invest tonight live in getting Bitcoin, like how hard would that be? And he's like, yeah, if you want to pay kind of higher fees, that's not hard at all. But one of the things that, kind of tonight's theme is touching on, comedy, virtual experiences, things like that. And let's walk through like a concrete scenario, right? Because I know like in the green room right now, we have one of our comedians there, and let's think about them. Because I'm legit interested in this. I go to a comedy show, right? And I want to just experience things. What would a Bitcoin forward universe look like if I'm going to the comedy club? We've solved coronavirus. Everybody can buy drinks and cough all over each other again. What does that look like, though, with Bitcoin, though?
Yeah, I think there's two key pieces. So the first is from a user experience standpoint, actually, most of the world is much further ahead than the United States when it comes to mobile payments. So in Asia, you've got all kinds of QR codes. In many African countries, you've got all sorts of mobile payment solutions. And so the US using cards and other forms of money is actually very far behind. So what I think is you can imagine literally, you think of your Starbucks experience, right? If you have the Starbucks app, you walk up, you make your order, and then you literally just hold your phone up, it scans that barcode or QR code, and then you walk away, right? That's a very similar experience to what you can do with Bitcoin, but it's not just Starbucks specific. You can do that everywhere, right? And so you don't have to carry around the credit cards, the debit cards, all that kind of stuff. So I think like there's a user experience advantage that can happen. Now, the second piece and the more important piece is actually the monetary policy. So if you think of fiat currencies, the whole key to a fiat currency is that it gets And so what this basically does is it says, rather than be financially incentivized to spend your money, you can actually save, right? And if you go back and you look at kind of the fiat legacy world, savers are punished and investors are rewarded. But in this world where it's a deflationary asset and it's got a fixed supply, basically now savers can win. So I think that's probably the biggest advantage for people is you no longer have to, let's say you're a comedian, right? You no longer have to be a great comedian, make a living, and then also be a professional investor on the side so that your money that sits in the bank doesn't just lose value because of inflation, right? If you're a teacher, if you're a fireman, if you're a middle manager, if you work in a supply chain, like we ask you to be great at your job, and then we ask you to be an investor as well. And that just doesn't make a lot of sense. So when you switch back to kind of sound money principles, what happens is now you can simply continue to acquire wealth and build wealth. Valuable. And so we think that's going to ultimately be something that's really attractive to people.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting. It's still like a little bit hard for me to wrap my head around the experience, but I like the. I mean, I even went to Starbucks today, almost against my will, but it's across the street from my kids where I was dropping them off, and they did put up like use the app, like it's quick touch and go, and I think actually, especially in a quote unquote post coronavirus world, like people being freaked out of like touch it. Like I went to a obviously I like my liquids, and so I was at a cidery this weekend, and the guy had bags for cash, bags for cash that you'd have to like put the cash in and hand there, and I'm like, oh, did you do that for coronavirus? And he's like, I actually had that before this. And I even think back when I was living in Chicago. Oh God, this is an embarrassing story. When I first moved to Chicago, and I didn't have any money, and I didn't have a job really, and I was trying to, back in 2006, and I was just like trying to figure out how to gather things together, and I literally found a bunch of change, and I put pennies in Ziploc bags to represent $1, so it wouldn't be confusing for the cashier at 7-Eleven when I bought a 6-pack to like, here you go. And I remember like, this is $1. This is $1. This is $1. And he's like, thank you. But if I had an app that showed that I had no money, at the very least, at least it streamlines the experience. And if anything, what I would say is, you would argue, I would imagine, is that by uncoupling it from that physical space, it frees up us to focus more on the fact that we can grow our wealth, our revenue, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, look, part of this whole, like, what is the positive impact of this, right? So the number one cause of wealth inequality in the world is inflation, right? And so if you look right now in this coronavirus kind of induced recession, we had a healthcare, pandemic that caused governments to shut down economies around the world. When that happened, you then have velocity of money that slows. The government is forced to respond with monetary stimulus. They basically pump trillions of dollars into an economy. And when they do that, two things occur. If you live paycheck to paycheck and only have cash as kind of your wealth, you're going to lose purchasing power. So you're literally going to get less and less wealthy over time. If you are in the top 50+% of Americans, for example, you have investment assets. And so you're not sitting in cash, you're sitting in investments. And that's why asset prices explode, is because we pumped trillions of dollars into the economy. And so, one of the things that's crazy is like the top billionaires in the United States made over $500 billion at the same time that 50 plus million Americans lost their jobs over the last 4 or 5 months in the United States. Now, that's not a capitalism sucks, type argument. I actually am a massive fan of capitalism, think it could solve a lot of our problems. What it is it's a structural issue with the money system. When we went off the gold standard in 1971, 1972, what ends up happening is now you've got a currency that continues to be devalued. And so asset prices pump and the currency gets devalued. The bottom 45 to 50% of Americans that own no assets, they lose wealth. The people who own all the assets, they continue to get wealthier and wealthier. And so what I think ends up happening is you have two options. You either, one, in the short term, can understand how money works, understand how the economy works, and position yourself to benefit. So don't sit in cash, get investable assets, right, and benefit alongside everyone else that's doing that. The second thing, though, is that ultimately that system will run off the cliff, right? Every single global reserve currency in the world in history has failed because it's been devalued. And so I don't know if that happens in 5 years, 10 years, or 150 years from now. But at some point, the US dollar is not going to be the global reserve currency because it got devalued. And so what that's going to have to be replaced by is a new system. And I think that's where Bitcoin ultimately, again, could take 50 to 150 years. But I think ultimately Bitcoin will end up being that new global reserve currency, specifically because it is not controlled by anyone. It's not manipulated. And so the game theory is, if I'm a government and you're a separate government, I don't want to transact in my currency or your currency when we're doing bilateral trade. You don't trust my currency because I'm manipulating it. I don't trust yours because you're manipulating it. So why don't we go use this other currency that nobody's manipulating, that's fully transparent, that's fully programmatic, that we know can't be inflated away or any of that stuff. And so I think that's ultimately the world we're heading into.
So one of the things that I want to do, two things to help us queue up our other guests who are about to join us. First, we work with nonprofits, and this is going to go out to, we work with 35,000 nonprofits. And so one of the things that we're excited about, and I'm going to do a little bit of spoiler in terms of the giving block, but we're actually working on a cryptocurrency integration into our CRM product with giving block. So spoiler, folks, for that. We're seeing more interest from the philanthropic space when it comes to that. So from a positive standpoint, where do you see the potential for Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies and blockchain in a world of social goods specifically? And then we're going to lighten it, or then we're going to get serious a bit and and go somewhere else. But seriously though, where do you see that piece going from a social good side?
So I think there's two key pieces. The first is I fundamentally believe that when Bitcoin is adopted on a global kind of standard, you will get much more equality in the world. In order to fix the world, you've got to fix the money, right? And the money is built to drive wealth and equality. And if you can address that by fixing the money, I think that tends to be a very net positive. The second thing that I would say, and it's probably more directly applicable in the short term, is that there's a lot of people who are using these digital currencies, right? Take just Bitcoin, for example. There was more volume last year in 2019. So on-chain adjusted transaction volume on Bitcoin was more than Venmo, PayPal, or Apple Pay. So more people last year used Bitcoin than Venmo, PayPal, and Apple Pay. And so when you think about that, you say, look, I don't know how many of the people who donate to my organization want to do this, but by simply opening up the possibility for them to do it, it's almost a zero cost type endeavor for me, right? Because I can just accept the donations and there's no risk. But if people do want to donate in this, then I should be prepared for that, right? And I think that as more and more people adopt these digital currencies or cryptocurrencies, it ends up being a kind of a, you don't want somebody to come to you and say, hey, I'd love to give you, $500,000 or $100,000, but I want to do it in Bitcoin or Ethereum or, whatever it is. And you say, oh, I can't accept that. Right. Like that doesn't make a lot of sense. And so I think that just being prepared is the key.
I mean, you look at the data just from Fidelity Charitable alone, and cryptocurrency donations have skyrocketed. Pat, though, you've been really dominating the conversation. Okay. And so I actually, there we go. Pomp, you're drinking. I was like, oh, did he join the conversation? He's not even drinking. So Pat, though, I do want to give you a chance before we kind of bring in our other guests to maybe say any final words, ask a question, something like that.
Yeah. I just have one thing I want to Pomp to touch on while he's on here, because I know a lot of nonprofits in particular, they're worried about PR. And one of the biggest issues with crypto is that it's like one of the worst PR situations. I'm from Jersey originally, which is also a state with horrific PR issues, despite the fact that it's pretty beautiful. Crypto seems scary to a lot of people. I think most of that is Silk Road nonsense from back in the day where criminals thought it wasn't transparent. So they used it to do chaotic shit online. And then as soon as the DA and the FBI started trying to follow it, it was pretty easy to follow criminals. Anonymity and privacy when it comes to individuals transacting with one another. But if you're law enforcement, it's a pretty good breadcrumb trail. So we don't have to get super technical on it, but pretty much if you're a nonprofit and you're scared of taking it rather than thinking it's too technical or it's difficult because we've already crossed those bridges, what would you say to a nonprofit who thought this was terrifying because they're just not totally up to speed?
Yeah. Again, there's a couple of points here. I think the first is compared to what you're already accepting. So you accept the US dollar. There's over $2 trillion a year that's laundered, right, in the US dollar. There's lots of terrorism financing that goes on. It's still one of the most untraceable things a criminal can do is use a bag of cash, right? And so I always joke and say, like, the currency of choice for criminals around the world is absolutely the US dollar in physical form. That doesn't solve Bitcoin's kind of PR problem, right? There's still plenty of people who say, yeah, but the US dollar doesn't have that kind of as the PR message. Bitcoin does. And I think the second piece there is there's a lot of people around the world who are using this, but also too, obviously law enforcement and banking regulators and people like that have spent a lot of time, money and effort, including our elected officials, to pass legislation and regulations around what is acceptable and what is not. And what you end up finding is that most of those regulations end up mirroring almost exactly what you see in the fiat legacy world. And so now, if we were having this conversation 5 years ago, it would kind of be like, really do your homework on the person that's sending you the money, right? Type thing. And it wouldn't be that great of an answer. Today, there's all sorts of KYC, AML, like all of the things that you need to be comfortable accepting money from somebody and not, laying awake at night being like, oh, I really hope I just didn't take that bad money, right? That dirty money. And so I think that that's a very, very key piece of this is not only that regulators and legislators have kind of, shook hands and said, okay, here are the rules. And they're almost identical to US dollar rules. But now you also have technology solutions in place where you can be, incredibly confident that the capital that you're receiving or the donation that you're receiving meets those standards. And so you kind of are offloading any risk that you would be taking and really just ensuring that you're doing things the right way. And I think that, as more and more people start to adopt cryptocurrencies, most organizations are going to see interest from people to donate in cryptocurrency, right? And it's just natural. One of the areas that we've seen a lot of this happen already is university endowments. So somebody, ends up owning a bunch of cryptocurrency and they say, hey, I'd love to support my, college I went to or whatever. And so like literally 5 years ago, they would go to the endowment and be like, I want to make a pretty decent sized donation. And the endowment would be like, what do you want to give it to, what are you giving to us? And endowments are like pretty used to accepting weird things, right? Like, it's not like they just accept dollars. Like they'll take your stock, they'll take, your private art collection, they'll take pretty much anything you want to give them. But I think that even they had to get up to speed on like, what is this crypto thing? How do we do it? How do we make sure we're not, participating in anything that would be nefarious? And now what you see is not only are these endowments accepting lots of donations in crypto, but they're actually investing in funds, like ours, where we're investing on their behalf to go and find more and more companies in the space. So I think it's kind of like this 180 that they've done from being scared of it to now they're accepting it and also wanting to kind of gain more exposure to the industry through investments from their endowments and things like that.
I mean, and that's a big question that we've been tackling even recently. There was a data breach that was in the news when it came to the nonprofit sector, and we had a whole session just on technology earlier today. Gonna shift gears. Want to welcome actually some Pomp. Feel free to stay around actually in terms of the conversation. What's that?
I can stay around for another 5 minutes or so.
Yeah. Hey, join the conversation. I want to actually welcome Adam and Sonal to our here we go.
Don't go anywhere. I was taking notes. What's this about comedians can focus on acquiring wealth? Send me the link. What?
No, listen. I went and I did. I'm sure you know who Bill Burr and Burt Kreschner are.
I know who Wilfred Burr is. Yeah. Oh,
Yes. And so I went on their podcast and I did a whole deep dive. And about 2/3 of the way through, Bill freaked out and goes, "That's it. I'm going to buy Bitcoin."
I mean, the main takeaway was we should all be investing in Bitcoin from the 15 minutes that I heard.
Well, here's the way that I think about it. And this is true of both the nonprofits and I think also individuals is it's not even so much investing in it as, I personally believe that there's two financial systems. One is the legacy system that the core unit of account is dollars. And then there's this new system that's digital and the core unit of account is Bitcoin. And so I think that both of those have a pretty good shot at like surviving and thriving in the future. And so I actually, back in December of 2018, took 50% of my net worth and put it into the new system and kept 50% in the old one. Now that's hyper aggressive. I'm a young guy, all the advantages that I have. I spend all day thinking about this stuff. But to me, it was just like, if you think that there's a 1% chance that this new system may work, like you probably should have 1% of your wealth in the new system, right? If you think it's 5%, then go do 5%. Like everyone's got to make their own decision and they should do their homework on it. But I definitely think 0 is kind of the wrong number.
As a comedian, I'm excited that there's a new currency to not get paid in.
I mean, Adam, do you feel like the average comedian that we know, they're a little bit lower than the Wilfred Burr bracket? Like, do you think they would even follow what Pomp is saying? Like,
No, they would be like, "What's this money you speak of? What's this? Yeah, what's this financial system?
Money? I've heard of money."
Is our drink tickets a cryptocurrency?
How do we reinvest drink tickets?
If so, I got in early and I got in hard. Speaking of 50% of one's net worth, that's what I have.
Please pull out a little cup full of drink tickets, like off camera.
Has anyone talked about rebranding it? Because I always thought cryptocurrency. Because cryptozoology is Bigfoot.
There's nobody. There was no marketers involved in naming any of this. Bitcoin, cryptocurrency. Right. There was nobody thinking long term in the name.
Right. Yeah. Just drop the crypto. Just currency.
Currency.
We do have chat that's going on, by the way, and somebody said, "How do you or exposure? How do you convert that rent money?" As well. Somebody also wants to know how to buy my vest. Maybe they can do it with cryptocurrency.
We do get paid in a lot of exposure. The gall, the audacity.
What do you say?
Just take it.
Just take it. Oh, my wife says, just take the vest.
That's like the classic payment scheme, right? We're not going to pay you money. We're going to pay you an exposure.
An experience.
Yeah, I think that maybe I'm going to give you more exposure than you're going to give me. So I think I'll take it.
Right.
Well, somebody said comedians should do online shows and get paid in crypto. It's a thing.
It absolutely is a thing. Look, if I was sitting in your guys' seats, for real, this is something that I think people are legitimately doing to some level of success, is they just set up Zoom and they either stream live to YouTube or wherever it is. And they basically say, look, I'm going to spend 30 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever. I'm going to tell some jokes. If you guys donate, I'll keep telling jokes, and I'll basically tell you every joke I got until you guys stop donating money. And all you have to do is you just drop a wallet address, and there's people all over the world. I mean, it's crazy, right? Everyone can use this currency, and they basically just start sending it to you. And I've seen people who have done all kinds of crazy things to kind of keep getting Bitcoin, which is pretty cool, frankly, but also pretty interesting to watch.
I mean, Adam, I don't know about you, but in terms of e-currency for comedians, that's Venmo, and that's $3.
Yeah, right. That's where it begins and ends.
Yeah. That's where it begins.
The thing about Venmo is most of the people are only going to be based in the United States. So it would be hard to take, like no one's going to Venmo you from, Asia or India or an African country or something like that. And so that's like a prime example of why Bitcoin has some level of value, right? People will debate what that value is, but just the fact that anyone in the world can send it to you. So you're not only held hostage to accepting money from people in the United States. So now you can really open up to a global audience. Like you could see how if you've got the right audience, you could double or triple or quadruple your potential, kind of paying audience simply by accepting a different currency.
Yeah, it's whatever. It's still better than exposure. That's the fun. What always used to crack me up when people say, you'll get exposure. It's like, yeah, well, you can die from exposure. Like that's not necessarily a good thing.
And how far away do you think that is in terms of like a global currency? Because I just did a show in Argentina and they're like, we'll see about getting you some pesos or whatever. I'm like, I'm good. Send me a plantain. Do they have plantains in Argentina? I don't know. But I was
the exposure over the money.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, how are you going to send me money from Argentina? I'm like, do they have PayPal in Argentina? And I didn't think about Bitcoin. Because for me, Bitcoin is still like, that's on the same level as like flat earthing. I'm like, Pomp's a flat earther.
I'm not a flat earther, but I do believe in aliens. So like that's pretty much close at this point.
I feel like it's
Sonal, you're going to get a knock on the door and there's just going to be a llama there with a bunch of cash in its mouth.
I would love that.
It took a while, but...
they're very blind, the llamas in Argentina, because of no ozone. That's a random thing that I know. Tim, I don't think that you invited us to get e-currency tips from Pomp, but this is definitely...
I know. This is different.
He invited us to get llama facts.
Well, we're
what
actually...
country has the blindest llamas?
We're getting some shit from Dylan Rosenthal in the chat, actually.
Who the hell is Dylan Rosenthal?
I don't know who he is, but he says that.
But he just got some exposure.
Yeah, he got some exposure.
Llama showed up at his door.
But no, it's somebody. So one of our attendees, actually, great organization that attended the conference, was saying she's trying to watch the lip syncing because she's at a board meeting right now. And so, yeah, she's working and watching this, and she's like, "What am I missing?" Because everybody's backgrounds are all like a bland palette, and it's hard for her to like see things, I guess. And then he wrote, well, you're not missing anything because it's not funny yet, which I disagree.
Damn, Rosenthal.
Oh man,
right?
Dylan.
Can you make fun of people with the last name Rosenthal?
Only if you want to get canceled immediately. That's the only way to do it. To talk about how you can't do it.
Are comedians like cancel proof at this point, or are they like prime target number one?
I'd say
that's the new currency, canceling.
Is canceling?
If you could pay me in never getting canceled, that would be the main thing. No one's cancel proof. Like no one's cancel proof, and also canceling is. Are we swearing on this? But canceling is bullshit.
Except for Kristen Toomey, because she's a girl, I think. She tried to get herself canceled. She came forward with all this stuff that she did. And everyone's like, you're so brave. I remember that night you molested me. It was great. It was great.
There's a comedian called Kyle Kinane, and he had the greatest line about it, about like the whole Louis C.K. thing. And Kyle said, I think Louis C.K. is going to be back because Mike Tyson has his own animated show. It's like, yeah. And he's back in the ring. So
did anyone pay the $8 to watch his special?
Who?
Louis. He dropped a special at the beginning of the pandemic.
Oh, did he really? Oh, I didn't.
Yeah, of course.
And it was every other special has been free. And then he's like, oh, people are actually watching TV now. I don't know if you could pay in Bitcoin, maybe.
No, he had a ton of llamas show up at his house with money in their mouth.
But none of y'all watched it, and none of you guys seem to know what I'm talking about.
No,
I know what you're talking about.
I watched the Dave Chappelle special, which was a fascinating kind of experience, right? Because they showed like all the social distancing elements and the masks, and then it was shortly after George Floyd and things of that nature, and that was a very powerful special, but also like it was funny, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I think a lot of comedy comes through pain in many ways too. Dylan would probably continue to say that maybe this live stream is going to be the best comedy because of how painful it is. But
apparently we're causing Dylan pain, and I find that hilarious. So you're right.
Dylan's waiting for something. Because I don't know about you, Adam, but I feel like the Chappelle special was a reflection also of kind of star power, and it's funny because it's Chappelle and we project funniness onto him, because I don't think there were really any jokes.
No, he was just kind of talking about experience. By the way, we got some kudos on your eye contact for the comedians, by the way, in terms of that. So thumbs up there.
I never know where to look. Are we supposed to look at the computer, into the camera?
So technically the in the lead up for this, I was saying, because Adam even emailed like, what are we doing? Like what is this, right? And so one of the things that I was saying is, how do we translate creating and connecting with audiences when it's you can't feed off of that energy of being in the room. So keep it light, keep it funny, but I actually do want to pose that question to you too when it comes to this. Like, what have you been doing during this time to kind of like keep your own energy up and connect with people?
And real quick, Tim, I just want to, Pomp said he had to go like 5 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago. So I just want to say thanks so much for dropping in on this.
Yep, Pomp, if you got to go, like,
Nice
thank you very
sir.
much for
I'm
joining.
gonna find some exposure somewhere else. I'll see you guys later.
There you go. Thanks for joining.
Well, check out that podcast with Bill.
Yeah.
Adam, you're the high energy guy in the group. That's a joke of it. You go first.
No, what was the question again? Oh, to connect to people.
Yeah, how do you connect when you've been kind of doing like this type of stuff all day? And Dylan, I hope you're having a good night, for real. We're just joshing with you.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I say one key thing that I do, I try to keep my glasses dirty so people can't see if I'm making eye contact or not. They never know where I'm looking. And secondly, because I guess Sonal's done one too, but we've done a couple of Zoom shows. I've done a few Zoom, Mike's have done a few shows online. I just think you can't worry about it too much. You can't just because that's gone away, you can't project in a comedy club. It's the comedian's job to let the audience know that whatever's happening is okay. And sometimes a comic, the whole point of a joke is that you sort of wrong foot someone. Someone's like, uh-oh, I don't know what this person is saying, and then the punchline makes it all right. So that's kind of your job. So we have to do that in these Zoom things too. Like, you can't keep going. At the very beginning of the pandemic, there was these online shows, and a lot of the sets, the first 90 seconds, 2 minutes, were like, well, this is weird. This is odd. I can't hear anyone, and like really commented on it, but not really. But then we all know that now, you know what I mean? It's sort of, we know it's weird, and you can mention it, but then you sort of move forward. Like I did a show with Sonal at a comedy club, and I wore an N95 mask the whole time, and just like being able to like say to the audience, like, this is how it's going to be, if you're, and then sort of make fun of it, address it, and then kind of move on.
I mean, you need somebody to set that tone.
Yeah, totally.
That this is real, because otherwise all it takes is a Joe Rogan being like, you're a bitch if you wear a mask. And then everybody is like, well, Joe is Lord, so now we're not going to wear masks, versus Adam is the headliner. So then Adam's wearing the mask, and we're like, oh, should we be wearing? He had his green room mask. He had his onstage mask. He's like very serious about the because I don't really think live stuff is sustainable right now.
No, not really. No.
Yeah.
Like we tried it. The one that we did, was like, I'd say the best practices across the board. Everything was like very, very safe.
And even the difference between Friday and Saturday. Friday was like tight. Friday was, I didn't see anybody on the move without a mask on. But by Saturday, it was like, there's 2 shows that night. I for sure saw some people going to the bathroom without a mask. It's an impossible cocktail of comedy, alcohol, rules, masks.
I don't know if you noticed, but I have a Wonder Woman, and that's not mine. That's my daughter's back there, by the way. But like we're doing potty training, and so we got to get little kids, and so we're talking about schools and we're talking about all this different stuff, and I can only. It's almost like, I mean, you've probably seen the. I don't know if it's a hacky joke at this point, but kind of the thing like toddlers are like drunk people.
Yeah.
And so same type of thing, like dealing with little kids. I get it because it's like, oh, it's like dealing with a drunk person because they don't want to put on their shoes. They're not going to listen to you. They're going to fight with you, the entire
Sneeze
way.
directly into your mouth.
Right. Yeah. Right on your face. Like they'll hit you and eventually my daughter bit my other daughter in the back the other day. How do you do that? Like that is mind blowing.
It's stealth is key.
That is true.
That's if you've got to do like a panther movement. I've heard that I guess toddlers might be harder. I've heard from my friends who have kids that their kids like the mask because it's a whole sort of dressing up superhero kind of thing.
How old are they?
They're all. I'm talking about older kids. I'm talking about like 5 upwards.
Yeah, I have a oh my God. Yeah, I have a 5-year-old and then twin 3-year-olds. And the 5-year-old
twins.
Yeah.
Right.
He's like, I'm tired.
Yeah, no, it's been a long day, folks. I've been doing this. It just, I'm pretty sure Dylan was at the same conference, and hopefully comes back tomorrow. But yeah, it's been a long day. It's been a long day, and
I should have made myself a drink for this.
Yeah, have you not? I thought I'd said
No.
have a drink. Have a drink. I got the other drink off to the side here.
Tim, have you seen any of Adam's videos? His news series?
I need to see the news series. I always try to we're big NPR fans.
Oh, cool.
And we play the local station WAMC here all the time, and obviously we lived in Chicago for 10 years. So we'd watch Wait, Don't Tell Me. So that I was like, oh my God, it's Adam Burke. And
wow.
So what's the new show? Tell us about that.
Oh, it's a thing I'm doing on Instagram and YouTube, and it just kind of came out naturally. It sort of answers your question. It sort of came out of naturally out of the pandemic thing where it was just I was sort of teaching a class on I am teaching a class on topical writing anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was just I was giving all these homework assignments to people, and I was like, I need to be doing this myself. And so I was like, I need to be writing topical jokes every week. And then it's like, so what would the format be? And I just I at the same time, because of the pandemic, I was building up my a home cocktail bar. And I was like, what if I just showed someone how to make a drink, and then I just told 4 jokes about what is happening in the news. And so that's what it is. It's like the simplest thing I could think of, because if it's too complicated, I won't do it because I'm naturally a lazy person. So I really am. So so I just I'm going to be making myself a drink anyway. I know that for a fact that's going to be happening. And so the hardest part about it is writing the jokes. Just you got to sit down. That takes a bit, and then I just make a drink. My girlfriend's nice enough to film me, and then it's called the 5 o'clock somewhere news, and you can find it on YouTube and Instagram. Thanks for the plug, Sonal, by the way.
Well, comedy, the world of comedy is funny because it's almost like it's like you end up in school projects with people, and you'll end up booked for a whole month, and you'll see the same 5 people all month, and I've kind of had that with Adam where I'm like, oh, we're both on this panel. I took his class. I was in the topical writing class. I really recommend it. It's coming up again on Zoom. And that was something that really worked, because, and at the same time, I'm talking shit about Mr. Rosenthal. I totally get it. I'm like, these are comedians. Do something funny. Why aren't they funny yet?
Well, and it's tough in this format in many ways. That's kind of even one of the things where Pat, from the Giving Block, our sponsor for tonight's social event, was even like, are they gonna do stand-up? Because I don't think that's gonna go well. And I'm like, no, I don't think they should do that. And I like this, and after at the end of a long day, just to be able to decompress, is just nice. And so thank you for that. And folks, we are paying them by the way. I want to make that. This is not just exposure. I'm going to contact you where to send the check. But no, not llamas. We're going to get you the cryptocurrency that Pomp has. But
is that for real? Are we getting paid? Do I have to open a wallet?
No, you don't have to open a wallet. No, I'm going to send you a check.
Yeah.
Rich, we should invest. I was paying attention.
Into what you do afterwards is up to you. But
I saw a thing. Days. You guys know Days of Samaro. They had a thing. They have a great show on Showtime, I believe. But anyway, they had a thing where they were making fun of this new film that's coming out.
Oh right, yeah. Okay, yeah.
It's called Money Plane. And they showed the trailer, and it's so funny. It's these people who are doing a heist to steal from a plane, and they're like, "What's on the plane?" And they go, "They've got a ton of Bitcoin on there." It's like the whole point of Bitcoin is you can't go in and steal it. You can't go in and lift up a server and go, "I've got $400,000 worth of Bitcoin." You can't like shake it and go like, "How much Bitcoin do you think is in there?" It's so funny.
I got to check that out. I actually worked for a nonprofit when I was living in Chicago, and actually I would do.
Oh, where are you, Tim?
So I'm in upstate New York right now. So I lived in kind of the uptown area of Chicago.
Okay.
Ravenswood. And we would do comedy shows, and we would do comedy shows at a comic book store that was open up there, and I would always
I know the store. I know what you're talking about.
The Comic Vault. And it's long closed. It's a vape shop now, but that's how I got connected with like Beth Stelling and Cameron Esposito and a lot of other Chicago comedians that I just, but they all like had the same thing where it'd be like, oh, okay, we're going to work with them this week. That's just kind of like the school project thing that you were just talking about. That's very funny in terms of that. But yeah, it just in general, it's just like, I don't know. I mean, I'm just one of the things that a study found on the nonprofit side is that donors basically said, look, if you ask me in 6 months, I might go to a gala, but like I'm waiting for a vaccine. Like when you looked at it kind of like that, like the vast majority of organization or people are like, I'm not going to a physical event. So like,
and in the meantime, they're planning Zoom galas.
Yeah, we're seeing those.
And I don't think the whole Zoom thing is that bad. And I don't think Zoom comedy is as weird as some people make it out. And I think it's like, again, I was talking to someone about this, every comic started doing shows to 7 people and no laughter. So we're uniquely set up to do this. You know what I mean? We're used to people laughing about. Me personally, I'm used to people, even if they do laugh, laughing about 25 seconds after I've told the joke, going, "Oh, okay." So
I'm late, but I'm here.
I've had lag in real life, if you know what I mean. I've seen actual people buffering. So I'm very much used to this.
Have you done any of the outdoor shows, Adam?
I haven't yet. I was due to do one, and it was just like the Illinois cases were spiking, and I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna step back.
Well, the reason I ask is because I've done 2, and I felt good because they were very like, we're doing the mic covers and we're doing masks.
I've done one. Yes. Go ahead.
And the point that I was going to make was it was almost harder to get feedback because you were outside.
Yeah.
And like you can see people laughing, but the sound goes everywhere versus in a Zoom, at least, like if you're bombing, you can see everyone's face. Like,
yeah, when people turn their video off, that's a bad sign. Like, I don't like this. I don't want to make this guy feel bad. I don't want to make this guy see that I'm doing housework.
and after our weekend at Zany's, where I was like, that was fun, but also like, am I supposed to go into quarantine now for 2 weeks?
Mm-hmm.
And like washing my hands and being very frantic. I almost felt a relief to go back to a Zoom show where I'm like, this feels so safe.
What else are you doing, Sonal? How are you channeling your comedic you know,
I was
urges.
doing better for the first trimester of the pandemic. It is, you know, and I was like taking.
I mean, that's terrifying when you put it in those terms, because I'm like, wait, what are we giving
What-
birth to?
Yeah.
What are we giving
What
birth
comes
to?
next? Yeah. Oh yeah.
I was doing a kid shows on Zoom, but then it felt like with the summertime, you know, and Tim, you know how fun it is to hang out with kids for like a half hour.
Oh yeah.
And then
So you're doing comedy for kids?
I was actually playing music. I was like playing music, doing a sing along, and it was,
Oh, okay.
you know, an interactive kind of anti-sonal session. A lot of Disney songs. These kids
Okay. I didn't know
lose
you
their
did that.
mind.
Okay,
Oh, yeah,
actually,
yeah,
tell me the Disney songs. I got to know the Disney songs. What do
Okay,
you-
definitely Moana. Still, you know,
yeah.
that's timeless. Then, you know that Shakira "Try Everything" song from Zootopia.
Yes, absolutely.
Birds don't just fly; they fall down and get up. That's a really appropriate song for
That's
right now.
God, is that the lyrics to the song? That is really effing depressing. Because every time I see a bird now, I'm like, oh, is that bird not flying? He's in recovery. that bird just had a life trauma, and like every time a bird is like, well, I guess I gotta get back on the.
I mean, if you get a lot of them, if you deconstruct them, like the Let It Go thing, you know.
I was going to say, what about Frozen? Where's Frozen?
Oh, no, real quick, I can't get off the Shakira song. Is after birds don't fly, they fall down and get up. Is the next line, fish don't swim, they just drown unsuccessfully?
It's I won't get up, I'll get up again till I reach the end. I wanna do everything. I want to do everything, even though I could fail. It's like, it's
Okay.
very much kind of a call to mediocrity, I think.
It's also a song that was clearly written on cocaine. I want to do everything.
Yeah, it's very enthusiastic. And you know that line?
I'm checking the chat on this one specifically. What's going on?
You know that line in Frozen where it's like, turn around and slam the door. It's like, what 3-year-old strife are you carrying? Because these kids will sing with like past life passion.
but kids are always slamming doors.
No, they are. Oh my God.
They're biting each other.
They are always slamming doors. Why are they always slamming doors? It's infuriating.
Yeah.
I mean, are they going to go to school, Tim?
So where we are in New York, we've flattened the curve pretty well.
Tim, New York seems to be taking it way more seriously than Illinois.
Yeah. So I live in upstate New York in the capital region, but then we go up to the North Country, Plattsburgh kind of area, Burlington, stuff like that. And there's a lot of like Trump flags that get flown in that area, or even outright Confederate flags. There's a lot of Confederate flags in upstate New York.
I've heard about that.
Yeah, I've looked at this. I actually, in college, I studied neo-Nazi organizations and their usage of social media. It was really uplifting. And it turns out that like everybody's still wearing a mask. They're all still wearing a mask. Like, it's and they're not even doing the like passive aggressive, I'm gonna wear a Nazi mask or anything like that. Like they're wearing a mask because it's like this. I don't like it, but I'm still gonna do it because I want to respect it. And it's not everybody. We went hiking, and a bunch of like probably
bunch of deer weren't
wearing the mask.
Anti-maskers.
The beavers are the worst. No, bunch of kid, youngins were not wearing it, but like it was still fine because the vast majority of people were still doing it as we were hiking and stuff like that. And so the plan that we're hearing is that, there's like a bunch of like, I can send my kids to school like 5 days a week,
That's great. We'll
see.
For most of the country, that's sort of unheard of. Have you heard of these non-effective masks? It's like
What,
a way.
the one with the hole right here is
Well,
that,
there's ones that look like regular masks, and on the ad, like on the Amazon ad, they're like 100% non-effective against any disease. Like it's sort of like a way to walk around and make a statement, like stick it to them, so you won't get hassled, but you know in your heart that you're exposed to everything, and screw those guys. And I was reading this, and that alone was blowing my mind. And then I was like, what if this is a double bluff? What if this mask actually works and they're trying to trick idiots into actually protecting themselves and others? And the fact that I was having that thought, the fact that I was trying to figure out some bizarre like health prank was just like, I can't, I've got to turn the computer off.
I want to bring up a chat item real quick because it's actually really good. It's going back to the slamming doors thing, by the way.
Okay.
And I know Denise, who makes this. Denise is actually doing our keynote tomorrow, and it's on the role of equity in generosity. She writes, in terms of slamming doors, only in white households. Black kids do not slam doors. Trust and believe. So, yeah. And then another sponsor of ours, Dan, is like, well, just remove the door, which my wife has talked about before. And we did remove a lot of our doors in our house because
and at the danger of co-opting someone else's point, that's a very white response.
Yeah.
The child isn't the problem, the door is the problem.
Door is the problem. It's a white response to say the door is the problem.
Now what are you gonna slam, you little shit?
Yeah.
And now you will sit in that corner and you will scream. And I mean, yeah, that's in brown households too. You will definitely, the hand of discipline will come down. Like you will get slapped. That's not a metaphor. That's
Right. Something's gonna get slammed, and it's not gonna be the door.
so, yeah.
Yeah, no. We had we take television privileges away.
I want to ask Denise if they're so impassioned.
White household, so
I want to ask if these households are so into Frozen, because I don't know what it is. I don't know what Disney, what Pixar figured out with this movie.
Yeah.
But
there has to be some subliminal messaging in Frozen and Frozen 2. Because yes, our children are obsessed with it. They have the dresses, and they wear them all the time. We have the books, we have the toys, the whole shebang. Yeah, I mean, I probably know. Look, my favorite movie growing up is Red Dawn, the 1984 original.
Yeah.
Okay, I've seen that over the course of my
I wore
life.
the dresses. I wore the dresses from that movie.
From that one, I mean,
yeah.
I get the anyway. So I got
Go
a lot.
Wolverines.
Wolverines. Great movie. I've seen it a lot. I have seen Frozen 2 more than Red Dawn, the original, in like 6 months.
Yeah,
basically. So yeah. I don't know what's going on with that thing.
One thing, this isn't a funny answer, but I think one thing that Disney did, and I think maybe the times are off in this. What year is Frozen? Because I think either Hamilton stole it off of Disney or Disney, but what they did, I don't know if you know this, they put the song, the clip of Let It Go, they put it out for free on YouTube, I think a month before the movie even came out. And the song was this massive hit, and the song was everywhere. And people were almost like, what is that song? It's like, oh, it's from Frozen. So the song was the hit before the movie was the hit.
And then it drove that. 2000, were you checking the internet? Is that was okay?
But so, and I think that's the thing that Hamilton did too. He put the whole album was up on YouTube.
Oh,
so everybody, no one had seen the musical because like 9, rich people had seen it. And I think they did the same thing with Frozen.
It was like Obama and like at the White House, right?
Right.
Well, and what I want to figure out is like, who's the one black guy in Frozen 2? Like, what's going on there?
Denise.
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 Don't tokenize Denise in terms of the conversation.
Well, I mean, that is also like in terms of tokenizing, like what is the purpose of
Yeah.
putting in like one brown face
in the middle of
he's-
Scandinavia, right? Like,
he's
like
who?
how did
And
he
he has,
get
like,
there?
a clearly black voice, you know, in terms of, I mean, that's even a problematic thing to say. Like, what does a black
Yeah.
voice mean? You know, but then, I mean, you hear his voice and you're like, okay, this is like a Hollywood representation or a Disney representation of like a black man in Scandinavia. Why?
I haven't seen the second one. I saw the first one.
I prefer the second one.
Okay.
I actually
All right.
prefer that. I think it's a tighter story. And yeah, so actually we've been going through in terms of what are you, yeah.
I love that we're
ta-
getting so deep into Frozen too.
Yeah.
So here's my wife. It's her birthday.
Happy
What?
birthday.
Happy birthday.
I wish you all the bitcoins.
I said it's like the new Godwin's Law, except it's Olaf.
It's the new Godwin's Law, but it's like Olaf.
You've been talking about Frozen for kind of a long
I know we've
time.
been talking about Frozen for a long time. I understand that. And our
Maybe
our
that's the
our
new-
viewership ratings are holding strong at
Maybe
a solid 15 people right now.
Is Godwin's
so-
Law the one about Hitler? Where like if you bring up
all conversations.
Oh, all conversations ultimately come down to Olaf. That's yes, that is. My wife is very funny.
But what was the Godwin's Law originally about? Was it all
Hitler.
conversations?
It's Hitler.
by the way, Odolf, but for a D, Odolf is almost an anagram of Adolf.
Olaf, which is also almost an anagram of Adolf.
If his name was Dolaf, then it'd be off and running.
Right.
Subliminal messages.
It's a
Pixar.
very it's
Viewership just went down. So, so
No,
We lost-
canceled.
we
Adam
lost-
just
but
got
I've been
canceled.
I've been reading this book. I've been going through this book. Have
Oh,
any of
okay.
you seen this book?
Mm.
It's really
No.
good, building a story brand. But it basically it comes down to like every type of story has a very similar flow where there's a person who's going through a problem and they need to approach that objective, but then they have a guide that comes
Right,
in
right.
and says this is how you need to think about this, and they either are going to overcome it or they're not. Right. But it's the guide that's the most important thing. And I think even with comedy, you're the guide for the audience to almost kind of get through that type of thing, right? Like if you center yourself necessarily, then that's when you bomb, right? Like you need to make sure in many ways that the audience can identify and work through the joke with you in many ways to guide through it.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's my I'm getting philosophical, and that's probably the IPA talking. but,
So Olaf is the guide in Frozen. Who's the
yeah,
guide?
actually, Olaf is the
He's
guy.
the
Adolf.
guide.
Yeah,
and then-
no, and my wife is laughing because we're still talking about Frozen.
But then that means that Anthony Fauci is our Olaf, and then Trump is the summer that melts him.
Anthony Fauci is
He's
the
supposed to be-
Olaf and the summer, and Trump is the summer who melted him. Does that sound right, lady?
I'm actually very confused. Like, what is our stance on Fauci? We're like, this is like the source of pure evil, or we're like, we should be listening to Fauci.
We should be listening to Fauci.
We should be listening to Fauci.
That's what I'm saying. It's so confusing now with the conspiracy theorists, and everybody's like, look, Bill Gates was on the Epstein pedophile island. We shouldn't be taking medical advice from him. And then some flashback of Fauci with Epstein and a 15-year-old, or you know what I mean? Like, it's like so many dots being connected. The conspiracy theorists are arguing with each other, which I really
Well, Fauci's in charge of diseases, so he was going to come across Epstein.
Oh, right, because they had that documentary that was like.
Thank you, Sonal. Sonal got that.
Plandemic, was it Plandemic that they? So wow, we pivoted hard.
I'll say this: there was a hearing. I was really mad about this because there was a hearing where Fauci was in front of Congress, and there was this Representative Clyburn was talking to him, and he was making these really good points about Europe and how they handled it and how we're handling it. And I reposted it, retweeted it on Twitter, and I pointed something out. And I was waiting for it to blow up, but I thought it was the funniest thing because this guy is talking. He's talking to Fauci, and he sits down. He goes, and you can just about hear it. He goes, "Now tell me, Dr. Fonzie." It's just like, wait, this guy just called Anthony Fauci the Fonz, and nobody picked him up on it. I just thought it was the funniest thing. Also, that's the one way that Fauci could be cooler.
I mean, what's your favorite conspiracy theory, Tim and Adam? Besides, like we shouldn't build 5G towers or something. I don't know.
It's got to be David Icke.
I love David.
Yeah,
it's got to be David Icke. It's the lizards thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he should bring those jumpsuits back. Definitely. I feel like that would up his exposure and credibility.
I'm surprised you know who David Icke is, Sonal. I don't know why. Because I feel like you're too young.
I am a little bit. I'm 36, and I lived with a guy in like the mid 2000s in Chicago who would actually make me watch like hours of YouTube videos of David Icke. And he's like, I'm not saying I believe everything this guy says, but a lot of what the guy says.
That's a very succinct way of telling us A, that the relationship ended, and B, why it ended.
I do have to say this. I went to school with Owen Benjamin.
Who's that?
Who's he again?
You don't know Owen Benjamin? Okay, then
the name rings a bell.
Well, then go look it up after and then email me.
Who is he in terms of Frozen?
In Frozen,
I'm only accepting character descriptions.
in terms of Frozen. He's Hans, and he's Hans if he had rabies. Okay.
Hans was cool though.
Hans was cool. You know what? Actually, here's a conspiracy theory.
Oh my God, your poor wife. It's her.
She is really like, what are we doing here? So
here's a conspiracy theory. He's like, I don't know about the virus. Let's focus on Frozen conspiracy theories.
The conspiracy theory is that the trolls manipulated the situation that Hans actually was, because if you follow the flow of a Disney story, Disney heroes always get to sing. They'll like a positive song.
No, they sing their intentions.
They sing their intentions. My wife is correcting me. So
the want song.
Yes, they sing their intentions, and only like good people sing that. And Han sang that, but then he turns out bad, and so that violates the Disney principle there. And so a lot of people were saying, because there were so many rewrites in that movie that they were big. So what are you doing?
I'm getting my charger. I'm like, oh my God, I should have gotten it earlier.
We are going to probably need to wrap this up in a few minutes, by the way.
Okay, well, I don't want to die in the middle of the conspiracy
Also, I like the phrase "sing your intention" because Sonal, I hope you don't mind me. Sonal's you're a little bit of a hippie, right?
Oh yeah. Well, yes.
And that sounds like something that you would tell me to do in a.
It sounds like a workshop that I would lead, like on Zoom.
Sing your intentions.
Yeah. So
the trolls manipulated the situation to ensure that Hans does not end up with Anna. That like they basically did something to his brain.
Well, who's the guy with the moose then? Who's like the hero?
Oh my God, why am I blanking on his name?
Sven?
No, Sven is the
reindeer.
What's the other? Oh, Kristoff.
Wait, so who was manipulated by the trolls?
Hans, the original movie's villain.
The original movie's
the redheaded dude.
The redheaded dude who was played by the guy from Crazy Ex-Girlfriend.
The redhead. See, I thought Hans was Kristoff this whole time that you were telling the Hans.
Little Mermaid was the last good ginger in a Disney movie. Since then, the gingers have been vilified.
Yeah, is that true? What about Brave? Brave was a weird movie.
Brave,
that's a Pixar. That's a
Brave
Pixar
was
movie.
Brave was a weird movie. One of my younger kids did not actually. Oldest. Oh my! Last time we watched it, yeah, Pepper actually freaked out. Yeah, my kid's name is Pepper.
I agree with Pepper. That was a weird movie. Mom turns into a bear.
Yeah, it was kind of a disaster, actually. I mean, I liked it because of like the female empowerment side, but then it's like, what is going on here?
Solid ginger depiction. Oh my
Yeah.
God, that's a landline. There's a landline.
You have a landline?
I don't know why. It's honestly, I'm at my parents' house right now, and it's like all marketing calls. Every time the landline rings, they're like, don't answer it. And I'm like, why? What is the purpose of the landline besides like the flex being able to, like, we have a landline? I mean, how bad is the pandemic if like all there is left to talk about is Frozen 2, which came out?
Oh, I'm not sure where we peg how successful this event was tonight. You know, and I had a good time, but
I had a good time.
I've had a good time.
I came here specifically to annoy Dylan Rosenthal, so this has been a win for me.
I think either Dylan logged off long ago, or you know, we made peace with him. And Dylan, please, if you are part of our
that was a joke. That was a joke.
Yeah, I know.
Poor Dylan.
The chat actually died down a bit. We still have people who are watching, but they're probably getting tired.
Well, that's okay. I mean, it is 9 o'clock.
And we did turn this event into just an ad for Disney Plus.
I really have enjoyed Disney Plus.
There it is. The plug. We're getting Bitcoin from Pixar.
I'm paid in Bitcoin from Pixar, and yeah. Well, Zootopia is I do like that movie. So we've seen pretty much everything. If we're gonna pay, so the kids hate Little Mermaid, don't want to watch it. The worst show.
No, they hate Snow White.
Snow White?
But the old lady scares them.
Yeah, the old lady scares them. So actually, I do want to quickly talk about Still Here Mercifully. Thank you, Dylan. Thank you very much for being with us. Actually, you know what? I want to give Dylan a round of applause. Thank you very much. This is good.
Sing your intentions, Dylan. Sing your intentions.
There's this terrible show called Lion Guard, which is a sequel to The Lion King, but in a serial episode format.
Right.
And it is the worst thing I have ever seen in my entire life.
Lion Guard sounds like a really ineffective spray that you'd use in the Serengeti.
But they sell to you on Safari.
yeah.
Like $6.
It works like 30% of the time.
Aladdin had a pretty good spin-off show.
Dylan is bowing, by the way. So no, what a good sport. Dylan is the hater in the
Were you a Disney guy growing up, Adam?
I thought you were making
Was I? That's a good question. I'm trying to remember what my Disney movies were. Yeah, I think I was, because I was in my teens when the sort of resurgence started big time. I really liked Hercules. I think I was like 15 or so when Hercules came out. Or
wanted my kids to like Hercules, and they just like weren't into it. They're too little. Yeah, I guess.
I mean, I also remember watching like Bedknobs and Broomsticks and
That's the stuff I liked. Yeah,
and just being in awe, like.
You know what I really liked when I was in my teens? My mom bought me like a VHS set that was Fantasia, and I love Fantasia. And to this day I love Fantasia. I think it's like one of the greatest. It's one of the greatest things, and it changed the way Disney. I mean, I don't know why this turned into a Disney podcast.
So I have to say, our VP of marketing, because there was look, I represent a company that represents social good organizations, and so I'm have to like. Certain points of the conversation, I had to go, do we have to edit this? Like, do we need to do something here? And she just wrote, I can't believe we're this deep into Frozen.
I know what I'm like, wait, who's Hans? Right, Hans, and then Sven, and then so Hans got manipulated and then she ends up with the other guy. Right, she ends up with Kristoff.
Somebody's bringing up Emperor's New Groove, which is like,
that's
the movie that everyone goes, I don't think we're gonna watch that one tonight.
Yeah, and speaking of voice actors, appropriate voice actors, David Spade being was it David Spade being the voice of a Mayan prince?
Oh.
I mean, I'm sure he's got some South American heritage back.
So we actually talked about this earlier. We had a panel with a bunch of different storytellers from outside of the nonprofit industry today. And one of my I went to high school with her, but she's actually on The Young and the Restless now.
Okay.
And she was talking about the tokenism that happens where it's like, oh, we got to get like, now it's like, oh, okay, diversity's hot. Like, let's tick off the Mexican American. She's like, I'm Dominican. Yeah, that's fine. And it's like, that's the type of thing that like we all have to grapple with now in terms of, are we going to take this seriously? You know, and if you're going to take it seriously, you're not going to put David Spade as
Mayan or Inca. I can't remember which one it is.
I think I don't even want to take a guess to be.
I mean, we know that he's neither of those. We know that it's not like, I'm sorry. Hey, Sonal, do you find that? Do you find things are getting better that way, or do you still find that you're sort of being used to fill a slot? Like, oh, you're close enough to be in this, even if you're not.
Oh, I mean, even that weekend at Zany's, I'm like, am I booked because Burke thinks that I'm funny, or because he's like, cool, I'm checking boxes?
I think people, I would say people are always booking you because you're funny.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I appreciate that so much.
You've got like a great energy. You've got a great energy.
Adam likes me. That's worth its weight in Bitcoin. But I mean, my experience is very much, am I hitting, token boxes? Like, because I look around and it was all dudes on the lineup that night.
Yeah.
So, and then it was like pretty much white men, right? I don't.
Yeah. And
even, I mean, I think the implementation of this stuff is really sticky business because it's like, it's a broken system.
But do you go out for acting gigs? Like, do you go out for acting gigs, and do you find that do you find like that people are being conscious about booking diversity, or is it still kind of like, we need someone in the brown area?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I get called for all ethnicities.
Right. Okay.
Be like, what's all ethnicities mean? Doesn't that just mean all people?
Mm.
If it's all ethnicities.
Oh wow. Okay.
And then you realize that just means like non-white. The new non-white is now all ethnicities.
Oh wow.
And
okay.
And even going back, we were rewatching some Mary Poppins. I mean, even the cartoons all the cartoons are white. They're like the cartoon.
But I love that you're just tethered to this. You can't get away from Disney.
I don't think we're going to get away.
Because I'm thinking about representation. Because did anyone see Late Night?
Yes.
The Mindy Kaling. Yes. I actually really enjoyed that movie. I saw a lot of myself in the movie where she shows up like 2 hours early for this meeting with snacks so that she's not late, and she's still late. And the end of the movie was like, instead of a room full of white dudes, it's still like a white woman and a white man in charge, but they filled it with like black and brown people.
Right.
And I was like, oh, it's a little cringe, like, it's like, this is the future where the white man's canceled, and I was like, but still in charge, there was criticism about Black Panther. Who made money from Black Panther?
Yeah. You know what movie I actually want to revisit? White Man's Burden.
I don't know
that one?
That sounds like a Rudyard Kipling.
Okay, so I think it's John Travolta. And let me look this up real quick because it's such a wackadoodle movie.
Or even like Blood Diamond. Like, remember when they had Leonardo DiCaprio or Black Diamond? Was it Black Diamond? Blood Diamond.
Blood Diamond.
Where he's doing his South African accent. It was, oh my God.
So here, I'm going to quickly share my screen just so you can be like, this is what comes up when you see this movie. It's John Travolta and Harry. Yeah. And it's in a world where whites are the minority.
Oh my God.
And
Is
so
this been scrubbed from the record?
Harry Belafonte, no.
I like
Live
want
in the
to
coconut.
I want to revisit.
I feel
What-
like that's
What is
one-
that? I don't remember anything about the movie other than the plot. I just want to revisit, like, what is this? How does this look now? You know?
I mean, anytime you see, you had me Travolta, Belafonte. I'm in.
I mean,
But like you'd be expecting, oh, this is gonna be a fun tap dancing movie, right? This is gonna be.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
This is
No,
gonna be.
I mean, some of those old like Christmas movies, like White Christmas, like it's a lot of stuff where it's like, hey.
I didn't see it. I didn't see it on there, but I bet I can guess what year White Man's Burden came out. I bet I can get it within 2 years.
Okay, actually, yes, I remember. So go.
challenge on.
96.
Oh, 95. But you are like, that is good enough. That is good enough.
You know
That is
how
a very 1995, 96 movie,
You
isn't
know
it?
how I'm calculating that? You gotta think you take it from the Rodney King LA riot, and then how long does Hollywood need to process a thing that happened, and then do their and then go, what's a weird sci-fi twist on that? And then it's normally about 4 years.
So my father he's an author.
Oh,
Okay.
cool.
That's awesome.
He's written about 50 books. He edited Ray Bradbury and worked with Isaac Asimov and stuff like that. And so that was kind of an interesting thing growing up. But I would always get phone calls from Harlan Ellison. And Harlan Ellison, for people who may or may not know, is like just kind of he passed away, but like he was a sci-fi author, and he actually did City at the Edge of Tomorrow, which is one of the most famous Star Trek episodes.
I've heard he can be quite belligerent. I know he's rather litigious, at least
Yes.
the Terminator movies are concerned.
Yes. So he would always call our house, and he would go, "This is Harlan from the coast," and that's how he would start out the conversation. But like, my father told me a story how he said that Hollywood, you can write a story about like creating a racial utopia, and then by the end of Hollywood getting through it, it would be about like beavers tap dancing on a nuclear submarine. It had, like, nothing to do with what you originally came up with.
Frozen was originally about global warming.
Very true.
So stupid.
Very true. Oh, Jesus. We can't get away. We can't get away. We cannot get
Oh
away.
my God.
We're holding
mean,
strong on our viewers, by the way, but
I really appreciate what you said, what you're saying though, where it's like racial utopia. Wait, what is nuclear snowman? How did that happen?
Right.
How did that because even I mean, Adam, what's your experience of like the shift or like the revolution? Do you feel vulnerable as like a white man? But you're exotic white, so
No, I mean, I'm trying to answer because people have asked me about this. I try to answer it in a way that doesn't sound pandering or like trying to win votes or anything. But I personally think that like someone who looks like me, my gender and racial makeup, we have been sort of like the dominant thing in comedy. And the thing is with like comedy, you're supposed to be adaptable to change. I think like the whole thing, the whole structure of a joke is upsetting expectations, right? It's about you set up one thing and then it turns out to be another thing. That's what a joke is. So if you can't live that as a comedian, if you can't roll with it and like this is new reality, then what are you doing? I don't think you even really like comedy. But it's like if you look at like anyone, who had like a pretty, if you take someone like Mark Maron, who had like a very stable set up career, and he was kind of going on that trajectory where he was supposed to do SNL and all the rest of it. Then he had a show on Air America, and then that kind of folded. And then he always talks about he had like nowhere to go, and then he kind of invented podcasts. I mean, I know he didn't, but he sort of invented that style of podcast. It's sort of like, hey, birds don't fly, they fall and they get up. But it's like, but really that kind of thing where it's like, if you can't adapt to this was never for you. If it changes and you're in a different role and you're now not in front of every camera, but now you're maybe writing for people who don't look like you, who are on camera now, well, this is what comedy's supposed to be. That you're supposed to find your space in it. And also that's what you've been asking everybody else to do. Because when people have complained about that in the past, when they've complained about a lack of inclusion, the old white guy answer was like, make your own thing. And so, well, now you do that. Now, if people who don't look like you are taking over mainstream spaces, which they aren't even really anyway, as much as people think they are, but if people are getting the first look and the first chance at these jobs now, as they should be, and a thing that reflects the audience, then you find your thing, find your niche, because that's what you've been telling those people to do for the past 30 years. So now take your own advice.
He's got my vote.
I really do believe that. I mean, I not just in terms of it, like, grow up, you know what I mean? Don't slam the door, don't want, like, if you really care about this, as a career, the fact that you're not going to get, that you're not the prime writer candidate for SNL or anything, like, you're gonna throw a hissy fit about that,
Yeah, I mean, and again, it's similar to Adam wearing the N95 mask on stage. Like, this kind of belief, you need that to set the tone, because it's very easy for, like some of the younger comics. I've definitely heard before the pandemic when it's like, well, I'm never getting booked on anything because I look like this, and it's over for the white man. I'm like, well, if you think that you're not getting booked because you look like that, you weren't going to get booked anyway, because there are still hella white people getting booked on most things. And it's like, It's more to be the funniest person or to be the one who's working hardest. And I will say that it is frustrating to figure out the science of funny, like what I think is funny is going to be very, very different to what works best in front of the audience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've always explained it as a comedian is a humor translator. So you have a thing in your head that is funny, and it's funny in the language of your brain. So now you have to translate that to an audience that doesn't speak the language of your brain. So you're an interpreter. Is basically what you're doing. That's what jokes are.
Sorry, speaking of which, Denise must have left and then came back, said, wait, y'all still going?
Okay, should we wrap? We can wrap.
We could probably wrap up.
Yeah.
And then true mediocre. So I'll end on this. True mediocre white guys actually have to work now. Any folks, this was a lot of fun actually, and I needed this. After. It was a long day. It was, a long conference and stuff like that.
Come back next time. We'll vote on Frozen 1 versus Frozen 2.
We'll put the polls out and all that jazz.
We'll put the poll out. Tim, thank you so much for inviting us.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes,
thank you. I know. I know it was like, what are we actually doing tonight? Like in many ways, but it was really, really, actually really fun to start with you interacting. Pomp has like 350,000 followers on Twitter, by the way.
Oh wow.
What is his handle? What?
Pat, you're still here unless you're like gone, actually. Hey, Dylan made it to the end. Thanks y'all.
Dylan.
Dylan loves us. Dylan loves hearing us talk about him. I'm sure
No, this was fun. No, actually, we're getting some kudos in the chat. So, Pat's probably so yeah. Pomp, I'll get you his handle off the top of my head. Let's see if I can actually grab it right.
Is it Pom Quarterly? No, that's not him.
No, that is not him.
That's like a magazine
Pomp Global.
For cheerleaders.
A Pompiliano. So if you probably just look APOMP L-I-N. Okay, so if you go that far.
A Pompliano.
Yeah.
Oh, he's an Italian guy, huh? He's got that whole vibe.
Yeah.
A lot of hands when he was talking. I'm like, look at this guy.
Oh, Denise had
I'm
to
a
pick
hand
her,
guy.
Denise had to pick her kid up from a barbecue. And Frozen one, no doubt, she says. So,
I'm with you, girl. I'm with you. I did like at least that. Well, no, Adam hasn't seen it yet. No spoilers. And
They all die at the end, right?
everybody check. No, they don't all die at the end. The black guy saves them all. That's how. No, that's totally not how it ends. Pompliano.
So learned so much about Disney characters and had fun too. So there we go. No, this was
Thanks
nice.
for listening, guys. Thank you.
Well, thank you all for joining us tonight. You know, it was so fun. And the connection here, by the way, is that actual Neon One staff, our company, which provides software to nonprofits, we had said, look, we want to do a fun event, and I actually want to get some comedians together, and you know, do you have any suggestions? And Mary from our team and Julie from our team said, you know, talk to these folks, and
cool.
So, you know, I was like, yeah, and you said yes. And so I'm
Thank
so
you.
happy about that.
Thank you, Mary and Julie. Yeah, thanks, Tim. Thanks for having us.
The vest is great. Happy birthday to your wife.
Yes.
They said happy birthday.
Yeah, I see you left out the bit about the vest because you know how that's going to be received. But yes, happy birthday.
Okay. All right.
I like that you dressed up though for the Zoom.
Yeah.
Well, I wore this actually. I wore this for the conference, and look, realistically, I'm wearing shorts. Like I had the whole jacket on. Like
vest and shorts is a strong look.
I mean,
summer CEO.
White guy holding strong, right?
I was going to say, talk about white man's burden.
I know. I'm wearing.
We should watch that.
Vest.
We should watch that and discuss.
That's the next.
You know what?
Event.
That's going to be our next event. We're going to do a Mystery Science Theater, like white man's burden. Just let's just talk about it. You know what? Like I'm down.
I also like referring to this hypothetical future event.
Yeah.
There's no reason that we can't do this again. So there we go. Awesome.
All right. Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you. Thanks, folks. Have a great night.
Bye, everybody.
Bye,
Thank
Adam.
you. Best of luck.